Hey everyone, and welcome to another Zelda Breath of the Wild update discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Ash Paulson to discuss all the Zelda updates from the past week. So let's get started. Well, I say updates, but on Facebook we've only gotten a single update from Nintendo since we last did one of these discussions. However, Game Informer has blown open the lid on Zelda in just all kinds of aspects, and there's tons to talk about this. There's tons of information out there. But as we've stated many times before, we're all kind of keeping the blinders up and trying not to spoil too many things, which is ironic because I consider one of these images that we're going to be discussing kind of spoiler heavy, and I'm kind of upset about that. So,
yeah,
like, we want to talk about the others, like those are, I feel, appropriate to talk about in the same vein as the Facebook one, but then we have one that spoils something outright. So I'm be forewarned. I'll do another little warning if you want to also remain kind of in the dark about that kind of stuff.
Should we just do that one last, just to kind of
I think I'm going to make that one last and just keep it simple in that way. But if you want to see more about from Game Informer, their issue is digitally available now, and you guys can check out all that information. If you want to go full blowout, it's all there. Have at it. Not for me.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, with all that said, let's go ahead and start with the Facebook image that Nintendo released, and it's kind of interesting because on the surface, we're looking at a stump.
Yeah, I mean, at first blush, this just seems to be a stump, and, oh, whatever, let's move on, no big deal. But it's not quite that simple.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Well, we know the koroks are in this game. We know we need to collect korok seeds. We have no idea what those seeds do. This might be our answer. And when I saw this, my first thought was, okay, this has to involve the seeds in some way, and two, that's a Deku Leaf on there from Wind Waker. Maybe it provides a gust of wind so you can like travel out far and hit far off platforms or areas or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if the korok seeds will have something in common with the, kind of similar side quest in the Wind Waker where you had to, replant all the trees and help, those other korok trees grow again, or if it'll be something different or what. But just the fact that this looks like a Deku Leaf and it looks like one of the, it looks like the koroks themselves, I have a feeling that this stump is going to have to do with the korok seeds in some way. So that's my guess. It seems like that's your guess as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it has that symbol. It kind of looks korokish and all that stuff.
And it's a tree stump, which, the koroks, if nothing else, they are affiliated with trees. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's got to be what this is. I would be actually shocked if it wasn't that.
Yeah, it'd feel like, what else could it be at this point? And, I think my idea of using air currents to get a little farther than usual also holds water here, because we look at the background, it's just all desert, or I don't know, just no life. It seems like a big canyon that you can go through. So maybe you can take advantage of that. I'm not sure.
Right. I mean, although one thing I will say is I expect that there will be multiple stumps like this dotted throughout the world. I have a feeling that this is not the only one of its kind. Like, I have a feeling that you're going to find more of these as you explore Hyrule, and that they're going to interact with one another in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have to see exactly what they do, because, it's kind of nice. I like images like this where it gives you just enough of like, I wonder what that does. It could be this, but what else could it be? Or what else could they actually do with it?
Exactly. And we're only like 3 weeks out now, if even that. So, I mean, we're going to know all these answers pretty soon.
Yeah, it's crazy. So,
yeah,
I'm definitely looking forward to it. But let's go ahead and swap over to Game Informer, and they actually have little captions underneath each of the images. And the first one they have is Link running through some grass and a massive lightning strike coming down. And it says in the caption, if you're not careful, Link can get struck by lightning. During a storm, Link will want to unequip his metal weapons and items. And that's such a fun little detail to me. Like, just running...
It is.
Like, oh, it's storming, whatever, I don't need to worry about it. All of a sudden, just bam, you just get struck by lightning. And you know with how easy Link dies in this game, that's instant death.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, I mean, unless you've like got a ton of heart containers or something, I have a feeling a lightning strike will mean instant death. So I do love that. I love how detailed this world is in terms of how you actually have to react realistically to the weather. I mean, we already know that Link gets cold and takes damage if he's not properly dressed for the cold. And we did, we have heard prior to this that, Link can get struck by lightning if he's wearing metal equipment during a storm. But this is, as far as I know, one of the first pictures we've seen of a lightning storm in the game. And man, this game continues to impress the hell out of me visually. It's so beautiful. And this lightning, like, I'm so excited to see these dynamic weather effects in action in the game as I'm just exploring, you know?
Absolutely. And it's in the middle of a forest. It has some sort of platform nearby. We can see a little bit of a fire. I'm not sure if that's from like a fire pit or if it's the lightning's actually starting the fire. But I do think lightning is able to start fires, depending on the area.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really neat to see, and we can even see like through the clouds one of the towers lighting up in the background.
Yeah, I was actually noticing that. I was going to say it's nice to know that even during a lightning storm or a rainstorm, that it seems like those towers glow brightly enough that you can use them as waypoints still.
Yeah, that's a nice touch, and it makes me wonder though. I wonder if like a storm's going on and we're trying to infiltrate one of the bokoblin camps or whatever. If we can get really creative and like put like something metal in the middle of their camp to try to attract a lightning strike and take them all out that way.
You know, realistically as the weather reacts in this game and all the ways you can use the environment to your advantage, I would not be surprised.
I think it'd be awesome. And just like, how would we do it? Like, can we put like a metal rod somewhere? Because the thing is, I can think of like throwing a sword in the middle, but that would immediately attract all the bokoblins. So some way to stealthily just put something metal near their camp would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, unless you use like the magnesis rune to like drop something from above, but of course it's still going to alert them. So I'm not sure how you would take advantage of that specifically. Also because lightning strikes, I assume, are random. You can't depend on one to happen whenever you want it to. So yeah, I don't know exactly how you could turn that to your advantage whenever you want to, but I could see it being something that can help you out in a pinch if you're lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be great if you were running away and they had like metal armor and all of a sudden like they get struck by lightning. It's like, well, that was advantageous.
Right? No, I can't wait to see how the weather just kind of affects both Link and the enemies, and just I'm really excited to see how this world's going to come together.
We get to see a little bit more combat in the next image, where it's the caption says, some of the random enemies that populate the world pose a significant challenge to Link during combat. Thankfully, if Link can take down these imposing foes, he'll be able to use their most powerful weapons against them. And we see him with like a giant like hammer weapon fighting these Stalfos. And it's pretty cool. Like it's intimidating. He only comes up to their hips. And
no, he really does. And, you know, that's something that I've seen play out a little bit, at least in the demos that I've played. Like, you were just talking about how easy it is for Link to die in this game, and it does seem to be the case. And that's also true that, like, I've been running around and suddenly I'll find myself flanked by enemies. I'm like, whoa, this happened. You know, this escalated really fast. And I don't recall ever fighting one of these guys, though. These are, like, it's weird. Like, they're, like, these horned, unicorn horn, like, Stalfos. It's really weird. Or Stalfos. So, yeah, no, and these guys are much bigger than anything I played in the demo at E3 and at New York. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing kind of what other enemies you can fight. And this is a little scary because this looks like it's in the middle of the night during a rainstorm, and Link's facing off against these two hulking skeleton monster things alone, but at least he's got this giant hammer to help him, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and hammers are much more effective against skeletons, at least in D&D, than swords and whatnot, so he has the right idea. I'm not sure if it's rain, though. I think this is snow, or maybe a
is it snow?
Desert. It's hard to say.
You're right, you know what? Yeah, you know what? You're right. I think it is. It's likelier to be snow than it is rain. You're right.
Yeah, it looks like he's going through some sort of snowstorm fighting these things, which makes it even scarier because you got these guys coming out, like they kind of blend in, maybe cause some trouble. But the idea that you can take their weapons, like, can you imagine Link decked out with that spear that the Stalfos is holding? No,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's one of the many weapons that he can use, like as the caption's saying. So no, and I think there is some more information just came out recently from Nintendo, which, I mean, this is common sense, but apparently every different kind of weapon has a completely different set of moves and animations, and, you know, just the way it's very different in terms of the way Link uses them. So. You know, the way he's going to swing this hammer is probably going to be completely different from the way he thrusts with that giant spear.
Yeah, and you can almost get a sense of the Goron sword in this case too, just because it's so big that he can't use a shield.
Right. So yeah, you can't defend. Yeah, there will probably be several two-handed weapons where you can't defend while you're fighting, and so it's kind of that risk-reward. Do you want the extra damage from this two-handed weapon, or do you want to be able to defend yourself? And it does seem as if defense is going to be more important than ever in Breath of the Wild.
It's cool to see. There's not much else to really pick out from this. Like, I see some sort of object in the background, but I have no idea what it could be.
Yeah. I'm wondering if maybe it's like a grave. It looks like it could be a gravestone.
Maybe
possibly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe just like a flag on a pole, and it's just very distant. It's really hard to say. But it's a cool image nonetheless. But sticking with the snow theme, we have this image of sort of like a cave-like structure, but seems to be out in the open. It's just a bunch of rocks overhead, while Link's riding his horse through the snow. And it says, the world is full of various natural wonders. Even though this is the largest version of Hyrule to date, Zelda's game world is dense with activity. Which, that is actually really encouraging, because I've seen a lot of people express concern that this game might not have a ton of content to do day to day. Just like it's big, but there's nothing to do. So this seems to indicate, no, there's plenty to do.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a problem that's kind of common to a lot of open world games, is that you've had this giant, expansive environment to explore, but not a whole lot to do in it. And it's not even just open world games. We saw this problem kind of start gestating with Twilight Princess, where it was so much bigger than Ocarina of Time, but there was also less to do in its world. And it's that's a problem we see with a lot of open world games, and we'll have to take Game Informer at their word here, and for the next 3 weeks or however long. But yeah, I mean, that's encouraging. I agree. Like, if there's really that much to do at any given space in this giant world, that's important, because a giant world really doesn't mean a whole lot if there's not a lot to do in it. So, although that seems like the kind of thing that Nintendo would want to sidestep. Like, Nintendo's obviously a very smart developer, and I feel like they go into a lot of these genres knowing what the pitfalls are, and starting from the beginning to try to get around those.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea, and at the very least, it's going to be empty, but even if it is empty in some way, I still think it's going to be fun, like, exploring these things. Like, I see this image as like, oh, I want to see what else is around there. That looks interesting. Like, what is the deal with this structure, with this rock formation? It looks fascinating, and I can't say that was always the case with something like Twilight Princess, which was big, but also was like so standard. This one has that much more open idea to it that makes it perhaps more naturally inclined to maybe want to explore things, because it is so big and it's a little bit more intricate.
And the other thing I love about this is that it's a snowy area, and you know how I love my snow and ice worlds and games and games. So I'm very glad that Hyrule seems to have a very, like a specific ice region in this game where there's just snow abounds, and I'm excited about that. I'll be spending much of my time in the polar regions, I expect.
Freezing to death.
Exactly.
You'll learn one day. Not too much else to say about that beyond those are some rocks.
Yeah, I don't really see anything in the background. Yeah,
no, not that I'm noticing either. However, we do have a new screenshot of Beetle. The caption says, "While Breath of the Wild ditches many of the series' long-standing tropes, familiar faces such as the shopkeeper Beetle still populate Hyrule." And we get a much better look at the way his shop is set up, and I love that little addition of just like his face on a flag hanging out front.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's such a Beetle-like thing, and yeah, having his face on the flag is great. And I love seeing this different perspective on the bag earlier, because remember, the first screenshot they ever showed off of Beetle, it was from a distance, and we actually had to figure out that it was Beetle. Mm-hmm. And it was like that really kind of zoomed out. It was much harder to tell that it was like a stag beetle or like a horned beetle-shaped bag. But now, of course, we can see it clearly, and it's so cool to see, like, it's a very Zelda-like design. Like, Nintendo's character designers for the Zelda games are it's just so smart. Look at that bag. Like, how that's so cool. And it's so creative, and I love Beetle in general. I just hope he has he still has the same voice clips.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
He has to, because his voice clips are the best part about him in Wind Waker.
Yeah, no, it's just cool. He has that little thing of that shade, that's giving him some shade. He has radishes and other vegetables hanging off. He has little flags. Like, you can totally see him just setting it all down and setting up shop pretty easily. And I mean, it's a question. We still have the question of exactly when we'll find him, but it seems to be set up at those stables, because we can see a place to like hitch up your horse in the background.
Yeah, it may be that he hangs around stables, or he also might be doing what he does in Wind Waker, and except on foot. He might be a traveling shopkeeper. So there might be an item you can get that'll tell you where Beetle is at any given time, or something. But the whole thing about Beetle is he travels the world. So I wouldn't be surprised if if we were able to find him in other locations besides just around stables.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be curious to see exactly what he sells. I mean, we're seeing vegetables there, so probably we can buy food off of him for cooking.
Yeah, at least ingredients for cooking, for sure, if not more. I mean, hopefully he'll have some sort of, like, shop reward system like he did in Wind Waker, where if you, like, buy 50 things from him and you become, like, a silver member, and then you get, like, exclusive access to his special items, like a piece of heart, assuming pieces of heart are back. And, like an empty bottle and things like that. So I do hope his membership program is making a return. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like, just seeing, because the shop actually has so much more. It's sort of like the Skyward Sword Bazaar to me, where all of a sudden, hey, I have a purpose to buy stuff now. There's things I can upgrade and whatnot. And with all the stuff that's available in Breath of the Wild, it makes sense to have a lot more items to shop. You can get food. You could probably get new clothes. You could probably get pre-made potions, or the typical supplies that you normally get, like arrows and bombs and other stuff like that. Like, Beetle actually seems really important, because shopping is not something I do that often in Zelda games.
Right, well, and it does seem like the economy in this game is going to be very different, such that you're really going to have to rummage and forage around for your own ingredients, because as far as we know, rupees are actually fairly rare within the game world itself. Apparently you can mine ore and you can trade that in for rupees, and there are other, you can find rupees to a degree, but I don't think that they're as plentiful as they used to be.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, it'll be interesting to see how that affects the economy and how difficult it is to be able to just afford whatever Beetle has to sell when you find him.
Yeah, and again, I like the mystery of all this. I like not going in not knowing, like, oh, how will I find the rupees to afford this, or how often will I come across rupees in just that general sense. And what all can I do? Like, really testing your limits, which I think is one of the more fun parts of open world games. It's like, what can I do? What can I get away with? Not too much else to say about Beetle. Just looking forward to seeing more from him. And it's also cool that we got it right. And I don't know. Yeah. I like this different take on his design, because usually he's shirtless, but now he has shoes. He has this, like, a half shirt on, but it's still that classic Beetle.
Yeah, he has like this, almost like this Western style, like bandana handkerchief around his neck, which is really cool. And he's a little taller than he is in Wind Waker, I think. So it's definitely, it's Beetle as designed for the Breath of the Wild art style, but he still looks very much like Beetle. They didn't change him too much, and he's by far my favorite shopkeeper from the entire Zelda series. So, like, if they had to pick one to bring back, I'm really glad it's Beetle, because, I mean, how can you not love the guy? I mean, even the face on his flag, he just looks so forlorn and confused and sad. But why though? He has no reason to, as far as we know.
Well, his back might be killing him at this point.
That's true. That looks like that would be a lot to carry around the Hyrule's various mountains and hills.
You talk about your favorite shopkeeper. Now I'm just imagining, what was it, Mallow from Twilight Princess running around in the same way as Beetle, setting
That's
up
true.
shop.
And Mallow is pretty cool. I have to give Mallow props, but there's just something about Beetle. I think it's those voice clips. That's what does it. Mm-hmm. It's those voice clips. He's so funny.
I'm okay with the creepy baby not coming back.
Yeah.
All good with Beetle coming back, and it should be interesting to see exactly what he sells and where he'll show up. But, well, here's your spoiler warning, guys, because this is the one I would personally consider a spoiler myself, so take that as you will. So, without further ado, the last image shows what appears to be a boss, at least according to the Game Informer's little caption at the bottom, where it says, each dungeon still has its own boss, and players will have to use clever tricks to take them down. And we see some sort of guardian that's corrupted red, has like a cannon, almost like a Samus-like cannon on one arm, and is standing on this massive structure. Like, this is a cool looking boss. And we can even see the Sheikah symbol at the base. So it's like we can really assume that the bosses are going to be like Sheikah guardians that have been corrupted by Ganon.
Yeah, that's absolutely what seems to be the case here. And it's funny, you say that it reminded me of Samus's arm cannon. Of course, the first thing I thought of was like, oh, it looks like a Mega Buster.
Oh, of course.
Or like an X Buster or something. And I love this design. I love that giant arm cannon this thing has. And yeah, I mean, I almost wanted to say it like it kind of reminded me like loosely of a bird type design, but I think that's just because of the weird face mask this thing has on, and like the prongs coming out of its head. But it's kind of hard to tell exactly what this thing is supposed to be, but it's such a cool design. And it's funny, before you showed me that, or you told me about these captions on the Game Informer site, I was just assuming that this was like one of the guardians that you can fight just as you're exploring the overworld, just like one of the ones that gets reactivated as you're exploring. And the reason I thought that is because obviously there's an open sky above the boss and Link. Like, this isn't an enclosed dungeon. So if this truly is one of the big main dungeon bosses, then that points to the idea that at least one of the dungeons is going to be open air.
Maybe open air, or maybe the arena is in the air, like higher up.
That's true. That's true.
All we can see in the background is either the open sky and then like some pillars. And it's hard to see what else is really around. And it's hard to say exactly what, but Game Informer is claiming this is a boss, and I would have been happy to go through ignorant, like, oh, it's probably just an enemy I can encounter elsewhere.
Me too.
But also, I would have been happily ignorant not seeing this guy at all, because this is going to be like impactful, seeing just how strange this thing is. This guy looks nothing like any other boss I've seen in a Zelda game.
I will say that it kind of outside reminds me of one of the Twilight monsters from Twilight Princess, with that, I guess, with that weirdly shaped face thing.
Yeah,
that
I can see that.
I don't know. I don't want to call it a mask because it's not what it is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it kind of gives me a Twilight vibe, but obviously the two aren't related, and that's really the only thing that it even reminds me of a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be the closest, because it does seem to have a similar mask. Because it's a humanoid shape, and it has these, like, it's not connected at the legs, like it's I don't know, connected telepathically or something. I don't know. And it's just so cool to look at, and it makes me wonder, like, okay, how many bosses are we going to actually have to climb in order to take out? Because that's what it's going to come down to with this fight.
That's what it seems to be. So, yeah, I mean, this seems like it's going to be a definite multi-stage fight where you're, like, slowly taking down its various components. And, I'm looking forward to seeing just how difficult it is, because Zelda bosses, as of late, have become notorious for being incredibly easy and just super tame and easy to take down. I mean, even the final boss of, like, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, I mean, they're both really pretty easy. So... And, Skyward Sword. I mean, the final boss of Skyward Sword was easy, too, so...
I had a little bit of trouble with Demise.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But, like, I feel like it's been a while since a Zelda boss has been, even if it's a little challenging, it's been a while since there's been a Zelda boss that's been truly challenging, that really makes you, use all your last health potions, your bottles and what have you. So... Given that Breath of the Wild seems to be a more difficult game in general, with Link being so much more fragile than usual, I wonder if this means the boss fights also are going to be actually difficult.
Maybe. It's hard to say. Like, there's nothing on here that's, like, usually there's a giant eye that Link has to aim for to take out, Stun them somehow, get up to the giant eye, slash. And there's kind of that in this, where we can see, like, that little blue dot on its face.
It's very tiny, though.
Yeah, it's very tiny. I almost wonder if, like, you can maybe knock it down if you get a well-placed arrow and hit it there a few times or something like that.
Yeah, possibly that, or, it might be that you have to use one of the one of the runes, one of the Sheikah Slate runes to damage this boss. It may not be one of Link's more conventional tools, but maybe you need to use, like, the Magnesis rune or the Cryonis rune or something like that. So, really, again, it comes back to what we keep saying about how we really still know quite little about this game 3 weeks before release, and that's so exciting.
Mm-hmm. And there's ways to learn more, of course, but we're just choosing not to.
Exactly, yeah. And one thing I do notice about this little Buster part, arm cannon part, it has, like, the main cannon part and then these 3 little mini cannons on the side. So I wonder if those all fire independently of one another.
Yeah, that's hard to say. Like, I could see, like, the 3 outside ones, like, maybe doing targeting, and then the middle one blast. I could also see just all 4 of them firing at the same time, or having different patterns that you have to dodge. Like, it really, like, just looking at this boss, there's no clear way of how to take it down. But you can also sort of see, like, oh, okay, there might be multiple ways to take it down. There's not really any one set path, which is also really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that's another... What seems to be a major design tenet of Breath of the Wild is figuring out your own way to do things and having multiple solutions to the same problem. So yeah, I mean, that may extend to the boss battles as well, where you really have to figure out for yourself not only how to take it down, but figure out what tools you have that can do that, and it may not just be one.
Yeah, that could be, and I like this continued theme of just trying to get rid of the corruption that Ganon has spread.
Yeah, me too. I love that Sheikah symbol gives me, like, goosebumps. Just knowing that Sheikah's, that the Sheikah's technology seems to have been turned against them in some way, or at least turned against Hyrule, and with the corruption spreading. It's just really interesting to see how what they've done with the Sheikah and how that whole element of the story has evolved.
Absolutely, and that's what has me excited, just because the Sheikah have been so mysterious, and to get just a little bit more information about them. I'd love to see more Sheikah than just Impa and Zelda, well, in Ocarina at least.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, I think it would be cool to have a game focusing on them, which this may be it. I mean, I don't know how much we'll actually see the Sheikah tribe itself, but this game does seem to have a particular focus on at least their technology and the impact that it's had on Hyrule in this particular, moment of time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, we may get a lot more details on the Sheikah in this very game.
That could be. Yeah, it's all pretty exciting, and it's, like you said, 3 weeks to go.
Yeah, we're almost there. We just got to stay spoiler-free and spoiler-safe. Like, I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't want to know anything else. Let's go. I just want to play this game now.
So, yeah, any other thoughts on any of these images, Ash?
No, I think we've pretty much well covered it.
Awesome. All right, well, I think that covers it for this week's Zelda discussion. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for more on The Legend of Zelda and other things gaming too. Till next time, bye.